Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video. For today's video, I have two topics on the south end I want to go over. First of all, as you can see by the upper two images on the left, on the 5th of January, notice that the corner of the southwest part of the factory is intact, and then by my previous video on the 8th of January, they had cut a slot through this entire section. What I believe this is to allow the new concrete wall panels to slot in and attach to this part of the building. And then in the bottom picture, you can see how that would look. Also, I put some columns in to give an idea of how that would connect to the new perimeter grade beam. So anyway, a pretty interesting observation, something worth watching on how this develops for the extension of the building. Now on my previous video, I saw this item on the left-hand side of the screen over on the west side where all the boring company equipment's being set up. Wasn't sure what this is, so I asked for help. And one of my YouTube viewers, Barry Winters 1142, identified this as a shield holder transporter or a concrete liner installation fixture. And from this image on the right from the boring company site, you can see it installed and how it would work with the Proof Rock system. Now, also putting together some of this information of what we're seeing and the items that are showing up here at Giga-Texas. This image I took on the 25th of November from the boring company site at Bastrop, Texas. The upper left, you can see that belt cassette or the conveyor that is now at Giga-Texas. Bottom left, you can see that concrete liner installation fixture on the ground and those two cement silos, plus the cement Sealcrete container that are all at Giga-Texas. And then I also found this boring company permit that had to do with the two tunnels at the boring company site in Bastrop, Texas. And I was able to get this larger, and we'll take a look at how this might indicate what we're going to see at Giga-Texas. Now you can see that there's a minimum of 100 feet or 33 meters from the Texas Department of Transportation right away around the road, and I think that would be the same here at Giga-Texas. You can see that the tunnel extends as a ramp from the ground by about 76 feet or 23 meters, and that will probably be replicated here. The outer diameter of the tunnel is 13.5 feet, which is about 4 meters. And we can also see that the minimum of about 14 feet or 4 meters below the road surface was used for the construction of these tunnels. And I think that will also be effective here at Giga-Texas. Now, using this satellite image of Giga-Texas, some of the details are starting to emerge. We can see that red line that is lined up from the left where the suspected boring tunnel starting point will be and the end of the existing building. And it also lines up with the extension of stamping 2, as you can see there. And also, even though the red line is for alignment only, we know that there was soil test locations just on the west side of the extension in that particular area, and there's also a gap in the perimeter grade beam in this exact same location. Now, some of this information is thanks to Patreon's Desi Doolin and Hardy NL, and also inputs from a Boring Revolutions site. So thank you very much for that information and what this looks like from the satellite view. Now, coming down to a lower altitude, this is what it looks like from the west side. Looking across the highway to the south end of the building, you can see those silos, the belt cassette on the ground that's disassembled, and where the likely starting point for the boring tunnel would be. Now, on the other side of the highway, this is what it would look like and how it is lining up with that gap in the yellow highlighted section in that perimeter grade beam. And also just where that projected line is where the boring tunnel might go. And this is a closer in view. You can see that gap on the left of the perimeter grade beam, the yellow line where that boring tunnel line would be. Now, there's some speculation whether the boring tunnel will end on the inside or the outside of the facility. If we take a look on the outside across towards where the starting point of the boring company equipment is and where the boring tunnel may start, we can see how this would look. And if it terminates over by that berm, it could do that as well and have an external entrance to that tunnel. Now, the interesting thing is that the height of the berm to that perimeter road is about 25 feet or about 7.5 meters or so. So that's a little bit different than what we saw in the diagram that was used for the test tunnels at the boring site. So that may be an issue that they're going to have to deal with, and I'm looking forward to seeing just how that will work and where those ramps would could be, whether they're inside the factory or if they're on that berm area. So anyway, a lot of information to look at and gives us things to check over the coming weeks and months. So there you have it, a few updates on the south end of the factory. So let's get into the drone now. Let's fly around Giga-Texas and let's see what it looks like today. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. It's a beautiful morning here at Giga-Texas. It's a little bit cooler than usual, and a big front's going to be coming through the latter part of this week, so it's going to become significantly cooler. So I'm glad to be able to get these images and get some great lighting with the sun today. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. But we're starting off here on the east side, taking a look at the multi-level parking garage. As you can tell, it is definitely growing towards the north and also towards the east, plus the ramp that's in the middle where the cars would be driving from one floor to the other is really taking shape as well. We see more of the tracks in and amongst the footings, and that's going to be where the cranes will be operating. And most of the concrete work looks completed, although there is some form work that is going on in the middle section. See some more of the materials on the farther east side, some of the pipes, some of the concrete double T's, some blue pipes, and also some of the rebar sections that are kind of a mesh in that dark brown that just passed underneath the right-hand side of the screen. And all that's going to be used to put the concrete on top of the concrete panels that are making up the multi-level parking garage. But it looks like another set of the double T's on that truck are getting ready to be lifted up and put into place. You can see the workers on the left-hand side as well. And once that is done, they'll continue to work and make progress to the north, it looks like right now. And soon we'll start seeing more of the work towards the east also. So while we're at this section of the site, let's fly up over the power lines, and I'm going to show you the progress on the roof that is going on, where they've removed some of the weatherproof membrane and some of the insulation panels, which are stocked on the left-hand side of the screen. They've also removed the roof decking materials, and you can see the beams that hold up the roof in this particular section. Underneath, there's already a plant that has been installed, and it's hard with the lighting, but you can see several of the fan units have been installed, and they're going to have the ventilation ducts put on top of that section of the roof, and that is what they're working on right now. As we continue to fly towards the south on top of the stamping machine structure, I'll pivot the drone down and we'll take a look here at this concrete section, some of the pipe work, and it looks like there's another perimeter beam, or at least a concrete wall that has some of the rebar put in, and it's going to be going around that particular section. So more to watch for as that develops. On the section between the stamping 2 extension on the right and the steel structure on the left, we can see that crews are putting in more of the floor decking on the second floor. More work with some of the footings in this particular area, and as I bring the drone down a little more, you can see it looks like work on a linear kind of a bridge between some of the footings on the right is continuing. And a good look across this part of the southwest side of the new structure, the perimeter grade beam, which is almost completed now. It's just one more section to be completed. And then, of course, the cyber pond, the river road at the south end, and looks like more deliveries here of steel. Looks like columns, and more of the materials have been arranged here on the south side. Looks like 2 cranes are operational today. The one large yellow crane, which it looks like is lifting some steel over towards where those workers are. And then this smaller crane is being used, I think, to sort out some of the steel materials. Here's a good zoom in showing you the work that is going on with the floor decking that's being installed. You can also see where there will eventually be more columns installed to increase that height to the full height where the roof is. And then here we see those crates that have the large glass panels similar to the ones that you see on the left, and also the crews are continuing to work on the pads, kind of those small rectangular steel items on top of that beam. You can see it all the way across the middle section beam here as well. All of that will be what secures those glass panes to this, what's going to be an entire wall, at least on the first floor, of glass for this new extension. Now, as we continue to move towards this part of the site, this is where we talked in the intro about where the boring tunnel may come through. You can also see that there's work to finish the perimeter grade beam going on where those workers are in that pit. And that will complete this to connect it to the existing structure. And then while we're here, I'll give you a closer view of where the wall panels were cut and slotted. And with this view, you can see how the slot is kind of at a 45-degree angle to allow those panels to slide in and then extend towards the south, and then make this all one contiguous structure when it's completed. It looks like there's 4 Cybertrucks in this staging yard right now. We've seen these before where they may be waiting for some parts, so I don't know if that's what's going on, but we'll continue to monitor that. As we come across the road, we get a chance to see this new excavation. It's in that same line where the boring tunnel would theoretically go across the site. We can see what this excavation looks like right now. Not sure if this is related to the boring tunnel or not, but it is in exactly the location where we would presume it to be. We can also see the cement silos on the left, that ribbon cartridge that's still in pieces on the left as well, and some of the concrete panels on the ground next to that blue and white crane. All of this is in that line for where it appears that the boring tunnel will be constructed. And as I look around here, you can just see how this excavation work is progressing. So hopefully we'll get more clues here in the next couple of videos. On the left, we see some white items. It looks like they've been used previously, so I'm not sure what that is for. And then as we get closer to this new supercharger installation site, you can get a good sense of all of the trench work, some of the conduit, and also more trenching on this east side as well of the end-of-line facility. And of course, you can see the mounts into the ground with those kind of flat plates where the columns for this covered awning for the supercharger will eventually be installed. The outbound lot itself still waiting for some of the asphalt, but looks like most of the trench work and the preparation for the lighting has been completed on this end. We can see one more large trench on the upper left for that lighting. Some trenching on the right next to those modular HVAC units that have been installed. And it looks like there's some crews working on one of those right now on the bottom right, and also with the ductwork that has been installed and connected to those units. As we fly up over the roof, I'll look to the north. You can see where there's more of that large section of earthwork being done just north of this rectangular water detention pond. A good look across the site towards the outbound lot, and of course the work that continues here with the concrete vaults and all of the conduit that is connecting over to the main factory, and then will power this side of the site as well. So as we fly along the roof and look at that east side with some of that trenching, we'll get ready to cross over the highway, and we'll resume on that side of the site. On the left-hand side of the screen, it looks like an employee has a Cybertruck. We're starting to see more of those in the employee parking lots. And here next to the main entrance, we can see those lighter color silver Model Ys and those two crimson red Model Ys. And pretty neat to see that that is arranged next to the main entrance. The end of line for the Model Ys is pretty busy. They are moving out from the site and then driving them over towards the east side for the testing, calibration, and the outbound lot. As we continue to fly towards the north on this west side, this gives you kind of a sense of all of the warehouse on wheels trailers that have been brought over here and are being picked up to be taken for more supplies. And of course, the ramp that has been excavated, this is the current state of that. No real progress in the last week, and I'm still waiting to figure out what that is going to be used for, although I do know it's not going to be used for a boring tunnel per a source that I talked to that works in that section of the factory. Here's some deliveries to the 4680 battery cell production portion of this side of the factory. And I had a viewer ask if I would get a closer look at the ducting and ventilation on top of the 4680 section. So here you go. You can get a good sense of how this looks right now with all of the ventilation shafts, the cooling enclosures, and the kind of that steam or vapor that is coming up out of those ventilation ducts on the left-hand side. It looks like there's been some of those kind of rounded ventilation ducts installed in the last couple of months as well. Plus you can see more ventilation ducts bases on the roof here waiting for future installation. As I come around the top of the north side of the wall, I'll bring the drone down, give you a good look at where the work is continuing to expand the 4680 cell production portion of the factory. I did notice earlier today a lot of drywall was being moved into the opening underneath that taller platform. So it looks like they are doing some internal finishing work for the walls and internal structures, which I think is a great sign. Next to this truck, we see that Cybertruck body no longer has the cover on it at all, so this gives you a good view of what that looks like, plus some other equipment nearby waiting for either recycling some of the old paint materials or maybe it's some newer items that have just arrived. Next to the corner here, the northeast corner, we can see the open concrete vaults. Workers are doing work on adding more of the electrical wiring. We can see the berm on the left that they're continuing to excavate and widen this section. All of the wiring that we see in this part of the factory is, I think, related to a decommissioning of the temporary electrical switch yard, which we will see a little later in the video. Coming up onto the roof, I wanted to give you a good view of the current status of the ventilation ducts, the ducted fans, and this installation to add ventilation to the the casting machine structure, and that continues to progress. And as I come over the wall, come back down, I'll show you where more of the wiring is being placed. You can see the temporary fences around, some of the wires on the left in green and black. And there are workers continuing to do final work with the wiring in this particular section. You see a utility crew truck there as well. And as we cross over the road, we notice that the trailers for transport, there are a lot less of them, so they are using them more and more to move the vehicles off-site, and we'll talk about that later in the video as well. In this section with the trailers and some of the materials that are remaining, we can see those items that were removed from the north part of the Megapack and replaced with new items, and just some more cleanup that is going on this side of the site. And as we fly over the Megapack themselves, this part of the site looks like it's completed. In fact, almost all of it looks completed. We see some of the utility trucks here next to that Model Y and that control room, and some other workers up near where the last items have been replaced and some of the wiring, but we still see that it is not connected to the grid. and looks like they're doing some final work in those V-type circuit breakers next to that one truck. But this is a good overall view of how the Megapack site looks today. Very close to being able to be connected. And as I mentioned, I think that one of the reasons why they haven't yet is that they still have some wiring that is being done, and we saw that by the main factory. And we're also going to see some work that's going on near the temporary electrical switchyard. The permanent electrical switchyard is fully operational and has all of the items that is needed for it to be powering the factory. So this part is in great shape. Still some more work here next to the trailers, it looks like, to be completed, but you can see the open vaults, you can see the utility workers here, you can see them working on that corner on the right-hand side of the screen, and also a lot more of the utility workers near the poles. And you can tell those 4 wooden poles, those are the temporary poles, and then the wires that connected to the grid. And this temporary electrical switchyard powered Giga-Texas for the better part of a year, maybe year and a half, and it looks like now it is in the stages that are necessary to decommission it and dismantle it. So a lot of people have asked what are they going to do with this site, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be dismantled, the parts used elsewhere, and eventually this will be completely gone. So a good thing to see, and just with the electrical system coming on final stages of construction, I think that's a great sign for Giga-Texas. So let's reposition over and take a look at what's going on near the die shop and the battery cathode plant today. Much of the water that we got from all the rains has dried up. We just have this one kind of ponded area on the west side of the die shop. But the whole rest of the west side here looks, for the most part, pretty dry. I know that there's still some muddy sections, but it's a lot better conditions than it was earlier this week and last week. Up near the lift station, we see more trench work underway. Good view into that one trench on the right, and you can see what that is kind of looking like right now. And it looks like they have that vault open as well. So work is continuing to get this configured for operation. On the northeast side, I'm going to fly up here farther than I did before. I want to show you where all of the earthwork is being done. You can see the islands are being removed. They used to have trees on it and power poles and power lines. Those have all been removed now, and they are flattening this entire section. And pretty soon all of those islands will be gone. I also noticed on my previous video up here next to where you see the utility truck and that excavator, they were doing some work here on this side. You can see where some of the trees have been taken down. And this is in that general area where a new road will eventually be constructed. So I don't know if that is what they're doing, but it's kind of interesting to see all of this in this same general area. As I pull away, this is a good view of how the earthwork and the removal of those islands, the trees, the power lines, all of this is looking right now. And they will continue to flatten this area out, and I am kind of curious to see, will we have any construction here? I don't know, but they're doing a lot of work in this particular area to make sure that it's all flat and all the way to the battery cathode plant, as you can see. So let's fly back towards the east side and take a look at the activity that is going on here today. Continues to appear to me like there's less and less materials. Some of the trailers have been moved away and some of the other equipment as well. We see some earthwork next to the Wade pit. This is a good view of some of the crash tested Cybertrucks and also the crash test facility as well. It looks like there's another vehicle on that rotisserie. Maybe it had already had crash testing, or maybe it's getting ready for it. Not really sure. On the south end of the crash test facility, you get a good sense of what this looks like today, and of course the entire east side. And we're going to fly up over the roof here. I want to show you a new development going on with the chiller plant. There's also some concrete being poured in the alleyway as well. So as we look down, we see the nitrogen tanks, the vaporizers, the manifolds in between this section here, and those stainless steel tanks. Some of the work on the valves, heat exchangers, and pumps and tanks on the left, the Evapco units. And on this north side, we see that they are putting a kind of a white plastic on scaffolding all throughout this entire section. And that's being applied right now as I was flying. I'm not exactly sure what the purpose is of this. Maybe they're doing some testing that needs to have it kind of protected from the wind. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be some painting. If you happen to know or have an idea what they're doing, please let me know in the comments. I would appreciate that. We see some trenching next to the base of the chiller plant. The conduit going across to the die shop is completed. And this new section getting concrete poured by that pump truck today. And this is finishing up even more of this entire section. And then hopefully once this is all done, they can get it cleaned up, and the concrete will help mitigate a lot of the mud that has been kind of tormenting this construction on this side of the site for a long time. So as we exit the south end of the alleyway, I'll bring the drone up, and I wanted to show you just how the overflow lot for the employees is absolutely full and is itself starting to overflow. And you can also see the east parking lot as well. This is one of the reasons why that multi-level parking garage is such a priority. They are continuing to hire in more workers for Giga-Texas, and with that parking lot you can definitely tell. And they need that parking garage finished as soon as possible to be able to handle the expected very large hiring of employees that are going to go on this year. Looking across the east side towards the main factory, it's a good view of how this side is continuing to transform. The recycle yard here continues to be busy, recycling all kinds of different kinds of materials. And I've also seen at some times some of the structural packs being recycled there as well. As we fly up over the tree line, I'll give you a good view here of this outflow channel that is being constructed or finished. And this allows the water in these two channels going to the left and right to drain across underneath the road and then over towards the ponds. We also see more of the double T's stacked up here waiting to be installed at that multi-level parking garage. And at the testing and calibration lot today, a lot more Model Ys than we saw in my previous video. We see a lot of activity, and we also see many Cybertrucks. Now right now there are 4 of them here supercharging. Before I was able to film here, I came by and took some photos, and there were 5 other Cybertrucks here as well. Pretty sure they were different because they were in different spaces. But this is another good sign that 4 new Cybertrucks completed, and they're getting them ready for moving to the outbound lot. While we're here, I'll give you a good view of the east side of that construction that's continuing next to those receiver doors on the left. We can see the frames that will be very similar to the ones on the left-hand side of the screen here to finish up those nearest that entryway. More of the concrete work next to these receiving doors. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of work being done by crews to add more of the electrical wiring into the conduit. You can see that activity here where it goes into the building on the left-hand side of the screen. Next to all of these castings, which are a mix of Cybertruck and Model Ys, you see that work on the berm continuing, and more of the work here on the right-hand side, now the center of the crews, finishing up the electrical wiring that goes all the way up to the Megapack and I think to that temporary electrical switch yard, and why we're seeing this work done to decommission it. Now as I pull away, I'll show you the outbound lot. What you'll see is a lot of Model Ys. A lot of the trailers are picking up vehicles very rapidly today, and there are more of the trucks, as you can definitely tell here, picking up vehicles. There are some Cybertrucks here, some next to that trailer, some lined up here next to the fence. and others are being loaded up onto the trucks right now. A few more in and amongst the Model Ys, and then 3 more on the upper left. What I'm trying to get across to you is that now with using this many more trucks, as soon as they arrive at the outbound lot, they are being loaded up onto the trucks just like this, and they're being driven off site. So it's great because we know that production is ramping up to be able to support that, but it's also difficult because I can't give you an exact number of what I think the production rate is. But I do think, and I have the sense that it is higher than it was last week, and it is continuing to ramp up. So anyway, that's a look here on this Wednesday, the 10th of January at Giga-Texas. I hope that you enjoyed what we talked about in the intro and what we saw in the video. Take care.